All right, everybody, hail and welcome back to another very special episode of Midgard Musings. My name is Jesse, and I am the host here on this channel. If this is your first time watching my content here, please check all my videos if you're into Norse heathenry, Germanic paganism, what is usually generally referred to nowadays as Osatru, Asatru, whatever focus you want to put on the emphasis of the word. Germanic paganism is another generic term, but if you're into that sort of thing, click that subscribe button down below. And if you don't want to miss a video, make sure that you click the bell notifications so that way you are notified every time I upload new content. So everyone, today's video is a very, very special one that I've been very excited to be able to show all of you. This is an interview that I was able to be a part of with a very, very cool individual. I've talked about him on some previous videos. You're going to see some annotated cards that pop up here throughout this video. Make sure you check those out to make sure that you are up to speed on everything. But I was able to have an interview with JM Olofsson. He is the shaman over at the Urdipt kindred, the Ulferhus. May have butchered that word a little bit. I'm sorry, JM, my friend. But guys, I did this interview and JM asked a lot of really awesome questions, had a lot of interesting things that he was asking. So this is the video. We recorded this over a Zoom meeting, which I know now with all this global pandemic situation, a lot of you folks are probably wondering, is it okay? Does it work? Does it not? Da, 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 da. We had a little bit of a hiccup halfway through that had nothing to do with the Zoom meeting. It had something to do with my actual machine. So you'll see that a little bit halfway through the video. But this is it, folks. I'm really super honored and humbled to have been able to sit down and talk with JM over this Zoom meeting and have this interview. So I hope you all enjoy it. If you do, please give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Head down into the description area to see all the ways that not only you can support Midgard Musings, but the ways that you can support some of the other individuals who we talk about in this interview. So I want to say a very special thank you to JM Olofsson, the shaman, for interviewing me, the Vitki. It was a really fun time. I enjoyed our conversations, and I really appreciate you putting this all together, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, here is the interview between a shaman and a Vitki here on Midgard Musings. Hail and enjoy.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am JM Olofsson. Thank you guys for being a part of this. It means a lot to me. This is a kind of a special project that I've been looking forward to for a while. I first approached Jesse with this some time ago, but things have gotten hectic, gotten crazy, and we're finally getting around to getting to sit down and do this video for you guys. I know you're used to watching Jesse on Midgard Musings and hearing him talk about a lot of things that we all have in common, whether it be the gods or any other aspect that we practice in paganism or heathenry. But today, you get to hear Jesse talk about himself. We're doing an interview, Shaman to Vitki. So without further ado, we'll get into the question segment. Jesse, if you want to say hi to your viewers out there before we get started.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Really appreciate you watching this video, and I really appreciate JM Olofsson for giving me the opportunity to sit and chat. We've known each other for a little while. I feel like we've known each other longer than we actually have in the real time, but great guy, and it's an honor to be his guest here. So looking forward to answering some of his questions and maybe even some of yours that are watching. So hope you guys enjoy this video.
All right, again, this has been a special project to me. I've followed Jesse for quite some time. He's inspired and motivated me in a lot of the work that I do. So my first question to you, Jesse, is what was the inspiration behind Midgard Musings? What was the muse in you coming up with this concept to make work and videos to put out to the public?
That's an interesting question that you ask it now, and that we're actually doing this interview now, man, because the formation of Midgard Musings kind of started around this time a couple years ago, maybe within the last week or two. I think I officially launched the Facebook page around the middle of April. The YouTube channel started around the middle or so of March. So why I wanted to do it actually just started with me wanting to read from the Havamal and share my thoughts about the stanzas. So my first videos on the channel were just me reading from a translation of the Havamal, sort of in a 9 stanza a week format. And I did that for however many weeks it was until I finished the entire poem, the Havamal. And so I would read a stanza and give my insights of what I thought it was. So it started, the muse behind it was to just share in knowledge, share in the wisdom of Odin from the Havamal, and give people my own views and give other people their opportunity for them to say, yeah, that's interesting, I never thought about it that way, or I think it means this instead of what you say it means, and just kind of have a very collaborative way of doing it. So that was the initial reason why I started what I did with Midgard Musings.
Continuing on with Midgard Musings, question 2, what are some of your goals or hopes in the work that you're putting in personally and for your viewers going forward?
Well, the hope has always been, right, to share in knowledge that helps us grow and become better, not just heathens or pagans, but better people, better individuals, people who, as individuals, the things that we do will add good to the web and add good to our individual wells that we dip into with our family, with our kin, with our extended family, our clans, our tribes. So my goal has always, since I launched this and since I started this, my goal has been to sort of create a space that not only I can learn personally, because let's face it, the things that I share with, I don't want to share misinformation, and I don't always want to, it's a funny thing, I don't consider myself like a leading authority or by any means, or that, because you heard Jesse say it on Midgard Musings that this is heathen, this is how you heathen. But I understand the obligation and responsibility I have as a content creator and as somebody who's putting stuff out there, that I have some sort of responsibility to not mislead or not misdirect. At least everybody can find things out themselves the way I do, but it gives me a good push, right, to do the right research and to find the right things. That way I'm not leading people down a path that that could lead them into things that aren't related to heathenry. So my goal has been and is still to continue to share information, share knowledge, and learn about things that will help us as individuals become better individuals and better pagans, better heathens for ourselves, for our loved ones, and for our communities.
Right. In creating content, in the work that you do, you really put yourself out there. It takes a lot of courage to do that. A lot of people have a lot to say, but don't necessarily have the courage to put themselves out there at the mercy of others and how they're going to take it, how they might judge it or read it or even sometimes misread it. Have you ever had a situation that you've had to deal with in producing your content where you've received any kind of negative feedback, or anyone that may have brought to you a situation that they said, hey, that's wrong, or you're doing this for the wrong reasons? How did you deal with that and still maintain the integrity of yourself as an educator, a creator, and a host?
It's a great question. I've had, actually, early on with Midgard Musings, I had a situation or an instance happen where I was going to start a series, a video series, and I was going to be kind of reading from or pulling from a book, and it's called We Are Our Deeds. And for anybody who's watching, you probably have heard me talk about it on this channel, and JM, you probably are familiar with this piece of literature. But it's a very important, I think anyway, it's a very important part of essential reading for heathens, especially nowadays, because what it does is it gives us a good historical backing for the ethics and morals that existed in archeheathen times, times that predate, you know, the Christian Scandinavia, where a lot of the sources like the Eddas and stuff and the sagas are documented from. So it gives us a really good sense of how things probably were before the conversion period of Scandinavia. So I was doing a video, or I was going to start doing a video, where I was reading from that book, and I got some feedback from individuals who were part of that book's publication, and who were tied to the Thade, the group, the kindred, the Thade, as it's called, because these are mostly Anglo-Saxon heathens, that pretty much, in no uncertain terms, told me I had no business talking about this sort of thing. And I got to admit, it kind of stung, right? Because I'm like, well, I'm doing this for the better of people. You know, I want to educate. I want to do this, that, and the other. And the content that I was putting out at the time, and I look back on it, and I tended to agree, it was delivered in a rather harsh and in a rather direct manner. But it wasn't wrong. I didn't have any business speaking on these things because I wasn't well informed enough to do so. So that was kind of a difficult thing, but I believe at the time I handled myself well enough, because I was actually able to talk with these individuals, or this one individual specifically. Yeah, I did. I talked to this gentleman directly, and understood where he was coming from, and understood that, yeah, I got stuff to learn. I got things I need to focus on. So when it comes to like maintaining the integrity, and then there's always the ones like, you know, being on YouTube or being on social media, there's always going to be the trolls, right? The people that just like to comment stuff to get a rise out of you. But for those types, for people who don't want to try and educate me or don't want to give me some sort of constructive criticism, there's this really cool thing. You can block people, and a lot of people don't know this, or if they do, they ignore it. You don't have to respond to the trolls, people. You don't have to say anything to feed them. You just ignore them, you block them, you ban them, and that's what I do. I don't have time to get involved in that song and dance, so I ignore the trolls, and then I work on bettering myself when people who want to give me that sort of feedback do so.
I absolutely agree. I love the way that you put that, because the more time you're giving to a negative state is time that you take away from being able to provide a positive in another place. Very well. Question 4. What inspires or motivates you personally in life, in your daily path, the work that you put in? What inspires you personally?
Well, the biggest thing that inspires me personally is wanting to, you know, I come from a background. I have my ancestors. We all have our ancestors. We all have the people who we come from. But what inspires me personally is to be someone and do things that would make my ancestors proud. I want them to be near me and see the greatness that I achieve and the great things that I can do. And I say that humbly enough, but with a bit of boast to my tone, because I want that. I want that renown. I want my songs to be sung, and I want those songs to be good songs. And that's what inspires me. It's because I know that when this physical shell of me is no longer traipsing around Midgard, at least in this physical form, that there will be parts of me still around through the actions that I carry out here and today. My loved ones certainly, my loved ones certainly inspires me. My wife, who is the closest person I have in my life, literally, day in and day out, she's always there for me. She supports me with what I do here on this platform and the path that I've chosen. I'm a very fortunate man to have a partner, a woman that I love, who's not the type to just discourage me from pursuing this path. So those are my personal inspirations for sure.
All right, Jesse, you've put a lot of work out there in your videos, the content that you produce and create, a lot of information. Do you have, this is going to be a two-part question. Do you have a favorite episode that you've done or favorite topic to talk about? And do you have one that is not so much a favorite episode that you've done or topic to talk about? Let's start with your favorite. Do you have one that stands out that really maybe meant a lot to you and what you create and do and put out there for your viewers and for the public?
I do. It was probably, I actually have two, but the one that really stands out to me is shortly after I created the channel, I was in New York, where I'm from, visiting my family, and the trip there was an important one because it was kind of around the time where my family, my family from where I'm from, recently had discovered that I'm a pagan. And for everybody that's watched my channel and knows my background, that's not how I was raised. It's not the faith or whatever that I was brought up in. So that discovering that I was, no longer following the same religious path or the same spiritual path as what I was raised in, definitely raised some concern with my family. So when I went to visit, I did a short video that was kind of just like my take on how do we deal with family who kind of like reject us as heathens or pagans or who really don't want anything to do with us. And I got a lot of really good feedback from that video. It's probably one of the videos on my channel that have the highest amount of views, because I think it's so relatable to so many folks these days. A lot of folks have come into heathenry from other religious faiths, mostly Abrahamic type faiths of Christianity, Catholicism, whatever, which I argue Catholicism is Christianity, but that's another story. But the Christian, path and stuff that a lot of folks tend to come to heathenry from, it really made a lot of people like, wow, thank you so much for your feedback. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for sharing ways that we can, things that we can consider. So that video really is probably one of my favorites just because of the positive feedback that it got. The other one that I really like was a more recent one, and it was basically like a how-to sort of how to perform a basic heathen ritual, how to perform a bloat, or how to do ritual. Because that's one of the big questions that people ask is, how do I do this? How do I do that? And that ritual is one of them. And I did just like a very basic thing. I didn't do one on camera, but it was like, here's the materials, here's what you can say, here's what you can do. And the feedback that I got from that video was everybody loved it. They were like, this is so helpful. It's helped me, improve my pagan practices. And so those are some of my favorites. As far as the least favorite goes, I'm probably my own worst critic when it comes to the kind of content that I put out and the quality of it. I've changed my recording styles and the ways that I've done things, and I've seen a huge jump in just quality over the years. But I think probably the least favorite video that I've ever had to do was actually during a live stream. And it was, cops came in and busted in, not to say busted in the door, but it was like they disrupted the live stream, and I had a bunch of people watching, and law enforcement came in. I didn't do anything wrong. I ended up getting what's called swatted, but that's probably my least favorite. Nobody wants to. You were, weren't you? Yeah. One for the history books.
Trolls. Back
Yeah.
to trolls. All right, Jesse. So a lot of the work that you do and put in and giving back to the community is in partnership with other creators like yourself. Do you have a favorite person that you've collaborated with or done work with in what you do that sharing the same views and vision and goals and giving back?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it goes without saying that we're here today and we're collaborating today with, which is the first of I hoped to be many collaborations. So I'm happy for that. But you know, anyone who's watched my channel knows I've mentioned Eric Shervin, Eric Word Weaver Shervin, over at the Ravens Call. I love collaborating with him. He's very knowledgeable and brings a lot of value to the platform. And to his folk, right? To his tribe, and to the people that he shares and ties weird with. I've spoken to him a lot, almost daily, at least to some degree. And we actually have done a collaboration about a little over a year ago around the Ostara, whatever you want to call it, celebrations around the springtime. And then we have a new video planned. The content has to just be recorded, but we've got the material already laid out. It's going to be kind of like a AMA or Ask Me Anything, where we get a lot of feedback from our viewers, both on my channel and his, and our various platforms that we use, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or whatever. Just ask us stuff, So always have loved working with Eric. Hope to do a lot more with him. As far as like YouTubers or content creators on this platform, that's been like the extent of who I've collaborated with. But I've had the honor and pleasure of kind of like interviewing or having on my channel another leader of our heathen community in the Nashville, Middle Tennessee area, who at the time served in his tribe or kindred as the kind of as like the Skald, I believe he was, kind of like the record keeper person or whatever. And he is now the chieftain of his tribe. I've been able to work with a sort of like a graphic designer developer. He does like comic artwork and stuff, but not comic as in haha funny, but like illustrated comics. And his page is the All Heathen Nerd Herd. So you guys check out the description down below for the link of his page. But he actually helped develop something that is on my merchandise, Midgard Musings merchandise, or at least one of the things that are available in my merchandise store. So working with different people in various ways and with various projects has really helped me, like with like Eric, for instance, or with Greg, his name is the chieftain who I did an interview with, and Justin over at the All Heathen Nerd Herd, just talking with these people, and even you, JM, getting a chance to, chew the fat, as they say, and just bend each other's ears and talk about things. It's been a wonderful experience in my growth, and I hope that what I bring to the table has some sort of value to give back to others as well.
I'm glad that you mentioned some of the other work when you had mentioned that the gentleman had started as a Skald. A Skald is really an artist in every sense of the word, whether it be poetry or illustrated art, records, or song. Moving on, I've frequented your Facebook Lives where you work on the runes. Is there anything particular that draws you to working with the runes and creating and crafting with the runes? Well,
I mean, from on the surface level, like it's it's a way that I feel is a good way to monetarily, you know, give back to the channel, right? Because the stuff that I do takes up my time. I don't make any money on it monetarily from AdSense or anything like that. So from a very surface level, like what I do with the runes is able to support some of the stuff that I do with regards to the channel and monetarily speaking. But beyond that, and probably way more important than that, I would think, what I get out of it, or why I get into it, you know, is my journey with the runes didn't start or begin when I started this path in healing, right? I didn't decide that I wanted to answer the call to the gods or follow this path in the way that I was going to, and then be like, yep, let me go get a set of runes and let me learn how to read them and then how to, you know, work them in divination. It was something that I left alone for probably the first year or two of me getting into this stuff. And the call to this, right, the sort of awakening moment was one night I was in bed, and I was woken out of my sleep by a very loud like crack, almost like if you were to imagine two pieces of lumber being smacked together. And so it woke me up to the point where it like jarred me out of my sleep, and I sat up. I don't know what time of the night it was. It was very early in the morning or in the middle of the night sometime. And I distinctly remember hearing that noise and looking around to see like what could have caused that. And nothing was obvious to me after examining the space that I was in and around the house or whatever, that nothing was obvious to me that something had fallen or there was some sort of disruption of any sort of physical sense. And during that when that loud crack came through and it jarred me out of my sleep, I distinctly remember seeing and hearing the Othala rune, sort of like being projected to me in my mind's eye, right? Like it was dark, but I could see it very vivid representation of that rune. And it stood out to me so much that that to me was like, it's time to get into the runes. It's time to start your journey. It's time to hang from the tree, so to speak, and learn the runes. So ever since then, and shortly thereafter was when I started actually making rune sets for people and offering them for sale, and just, you know, not trying to like make a buck, but just to cover costs and give a little bit back to the channel in a monetary way. But that's why I did it. That's why I got into it. That's why I got into doing it, not just to work with the runes for myself and learning it for myself to serve my community, but to actually give something physical and provide for those people that are interested as well.
2020 has been a crazy year thus far. It's only a few months in, but a lot has happened. Do you have any goals for the rest of 2020 with Midgard Musings? Do you have any new projects that you may haven't announced yet that people could look forward to? I know you had mentioned your collaboration with Eric just a bit ago. What are your plans for the rest of 2020 with Midgard Musings?
Well, I was hoping to reappear at our annual Pagan Pride Day here in Nashville, Tennessee. There's an annual thing that comes around that usually draws quite a lot of people, and it occurs late in the summer, usually around September. And I think this year they're actually pushing it to the beginning of October to kind of hopefully get past the hotter months of the year, which, if anyone who's watching lives in the South knows that we get hot and not hot months. We don't really get breaks of seasons too much, at least in this part of the South. So I'm hoping to return there. I was there last year with my wife. We had a lot of wood burning crafts that we made and sold and actually did pretty well in. Got a lot of good interaction with the with some other vendors and with the people who came to attend the event. So I would definitely like to make it back for that. I have I shoot high, right? I shoot so far beyond my attainable goal that I feel like if I fall short of it, at least I'm hitting a goal that I've a backup goal, more or less. I would love for this channel to get to 5,000 subscribers this year. Right now it's like 2,600, so a little bit more than halfway, or approaching 2,600, something like that. So it's, right around the halfway mark, and we're, just a little bit past the quarter, way into the year. So we'll see. So if everybody hasn't already, share these videos, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But those are, for the channel, for Midgard Musings, those are just some of my immediate goals. And to be honest, I take everything with this, just kind of a day at a time, and what inspires me, what comes up at a given moment, I'll work it. I'm constantly trying to think, what can I do to keep things relevant and keep things interesting. But those are some of my initial goals, at least for the channel.
Right. We got into a little bit of that just now, but I want to finish up with the last question, because I really appreciate all that you do in YouTube and your Patreon and your live videos that you cast on Facebook. How can people tune in and follow the work that you do, and how can folks help support what you do so that you can continue to give back to the community in the way that you do?
Yeah, so I do the Facebook, the Facebook live streams used to be a lot more frequent. I don't do them as much anymore, but anytime I do go live, if you haven't yet liked the Facebook page, obviously, anyone who's watching who hasn't, if you do Facebook, a lot of folks I notice on these various social media platforms tend to stick to one or two different things. They don't, there's not a lot of bleed over from one platform to the other. But like the Facebook page, give it a like. Make sure you turn on the following. There's an option for how you follow the page. If you want to see page content first, it's always going to just default you to following it. So liking and following the page helps. Sharing the content on that platform helps as well. But I think the biggest way people can help is sharing these videos on YouTube. Definitely subscribe, but the more you watch and the more you share and the more you get other people to watch and share, the better it converts from a content creator's perspective, because it's all about watch time. Additionally, from that, like you mentioned, the Patreon thing, I have to get more into that. I launched it to, again, have some sort of supplemental monetary income, so to speak, as for the channel that's directly dedicated to the channel. And I have 3 different tiers of Patreonship or patronship, whatever they call it, patronage. So you can start at like a thrall level, I call it, just for $1 a month. You get like a shout out at the end of my videos, and like the credits. I thank all my Patreon supporters. And then the higher, I can't remember. You have to check. I'll link, everything's down in the description, guys. Just check all that out. But I know the top tier Patreon level is like chieftain level. And for that amount, not only do you get the recognition at the end of every video, but you also get a monthly rune reading from myself that I email to you personally. So that's a big help. Buying rune sets, anybody who's watching the videos that knows I make the rune sets can reach me either through this video down in the comments or send me an email. Information's down in the description area. And I'm happy to make either a birch rune set or a driftwood rune set. That definitely helps support the channel. So those are the ways that I've got going right now. Maybe more to come as I dive into some things. Of course, the merchandise, guys, I could tell you, like, there's merchandise, there's the rune sets, the subscriptions, the Patreon. I have a one-stop shop in a Linktree description or down in the description, it's a link. It's a link tree thing, and you click on it, and it'll bring you to all the URLs and websites and stuff that you can go to support the channel. So definitely check that out. Greatly appreciate it.
And you guys definitely do that. I mean, this isn't money for nothing. The Way of Our Folk is a gift for a gift. And when you have creators like Jesse and Eric and some of the others that he'd mentioned, they're dedicated. They're dedicating their time, their effort into providing educational pieces and other things to give back to the community. So support in any way that you can. I'm out of questions, but I've got one bonus question to leave with. In a sentence, just a quick wrap around. Anyone new to your content, to what you put out there, to anyone new to their path, one piece of advice that you would give a newcomer or someone that's just finding their way, finding about themselves, that calling home, one piece of advice.
That's a great question, and it's probably there's so many things that I would want to say to somebody, but I think, like, the biggest thing for me when I first started out was it felt overwhelming, right? It was definitely a different direction that I was heading in my spirituality than anything that I had previously experienced, or so I thought. There's a lot of different nuances in various cultures and in various even spiritual paths that have similarities to them, so I can look back at the way I was raised, and even though the spirituality of it was much different than what it is now, the fundamentals, the grassroots of it all were very similar. So my I guess my piece of advice, or the one thing that I would tell somebody is, don't have your head so far up in Asgard that you're of no use in Midgard. Get back to your roots, stick to the ground, worry about expanding yourself, worry about traveling through the realms, worry about the spirituality of it as you grow, but start strong, start with the roots, because a tree, in order to grow strong, needs to have strong roots. And once those roots are nourished and those roots are stable, then there's a solid foundation for the rest of the tree to grow and build from. So, a lot of people get told, oh, you got to read the lore, you got to read the sagas, you've got to read the Eddas, you got to read. Well, yeah, there's value to that, don't get me wrong, but don't get lost in the books. Don't think that, that's where some of it may start, but it's definitely not where it ends. It continues on in the actual deeds, and it continues on in what we do and how we live and how we interact. So just make sure you have good roots. Just stay on the ground for a little bit. That's what I would say.
It was well said. Well, Jesse, I guess we'll wrap it up now. I want to thank you for your time tonight and answering my questions. We've gotten to know each other pretty well over time in our private discussions, but hopefully through this, some of your viewers will get to know you a little better and help others as well to get to know you a little better. For those of you that know me, you're probably familiar with Heathen's Greetings US. It's a project that I've got out of this very room here, where I craft, and much like Jesse, the runes, among other things. And for those of you familiar with Heathen's Greetings, we do a monthly giveaway, and there's a hidden message in tonight's video that will be key in this month's giveaway. I'll let that go once we post on the page. But again, thank you, Jesse. And I really appreciate your time. I appreciate what you do, all you give. And folks, give back. If you enjoy these creators, the work that they put in, their time, their dedication to bring to you what they do, support in any way that you can. Jesse's mentioned many ways to do that. And he's also let you know that those links and ways are going to be available down there in the description. So thank you guys for your time, Jesse, again, and yours. And I'll see you guys on the next one.